Have you ever done something wrong and you wondered yourself whether you were saved? I mean, you've gone out and you've done something and then you come back doubting yourself and you're asking the question, am I really saved here? Am I saved? And you're wondering, am I honestly saved? When we lose the identity, our identity, the enemy can then frame another identity for us. Whenever you lose your identity, then the enemy can come in and frame another identity for you. Here's what I want to teach. You have to define or determine who you are before you ever get in a crisis. You can quit what you do, but you cannot quit who you are. I mean, if I walked off from this church today, my identity is not so wrapped up in being the pastor of this church that I'm going to lose my identity and forget who I am in God. If your circumstances changed and if you lose identity of who you are, then your identity was wrapped up in the wrong thing. You have to define before there is a crisis who you are, so that even if you lose everything you've got, everything that you've got, you know how to get it again, because you don't lose your identity. You do realize that this is not my first church. You do realize that. I was the pastor of another church. But when I left that church, my identity was not wrapped up in that church. My identity was wrapped up in God, and that's why when I left that church, I could build this one. Are you listening to me? Don't ever get your identity wrapped up in things and circumstances and in other two-legged human beings that are fickle, because they can walk out of your life and mess you up and leave you scratching your head wondering, who am I, and suicidal. Because you went through a crisis and you don't know who you are. You got to settle those questions so that if somebody starts questioning your integrity, you've already defined for yourself who you are. You're not defined by your bank account. The devil tries to mess with you so that you get your identity in your self-worth and not in your net worth and not in your self-worth. He wants to confuse your identity, because if he can get you to forget about who you are, he can get you to misbehave. If you lose sight of who you are, you will inevitably misbehave. It's only a matter of time. If you ever lose sight, that's the identity test that every person goes through. If you didn't have any degrees behind your name, who are you? If you didn't have that title on the job, who are you? I ask some people who they are. They're all wrapped up into, I'm apostle so-and-so, I'm prophet so-and-so, I'm prophetess so-and-so, I'm evangelist so. Who are you really? So if I bump into you and you're not at church, who are you? Without your robe and your cross and your title and your position and your house and your car, who are you? Is it wrapped up in the school that you went to? The city that you were born and raised in? I'm an Atlantan, I'm a New Yorker, I'm a North Carolinian. What difference does it make where you were born? Where you were born is not who you are. This is an identity test. Jesus was having everything tested in him. He's saying, if you are the Son of God, if you're the Son of God, this is an identity test. Who are you really? You ever found people and they're standing around scratching their head, talking about, I'm trying to find myself, doing all kind of stupid stuff, walking out of the marriage. I got to find myself. I need some time. I need to find myself. Sweetie, you should have known who you were when you left your daddy's house. No wonder your panties are around your ankles. You better know who you are before you hop in somebody's car and get on a plane or train to go to the big city from the country, and you don't know who you are. My twin daughters are in Italy right now. And I've been sleeping well every night because I know that my girls know who they are. They knew who they were before they left home. They're not going to go over there and start ho-hopping because they weren't ho-hopping when they were here. Something is on the inside. It's not what I imposed on them. It's what Jesus birthed in them. You got to have an identity in you. You got to answer the identity question. I'm not going to lose any sleep over some identity issues because I know they know who they are. You got to answer that question before you get in a battle. Even if I lose, I got to know I'm a winner, that I am more than a conqueror in Him. There's certain things that you got to know. You got to know. You got to know. Touch your neighbor, say, be in the know, be in the know, be in the know.